Hello everyone. Tonight we're going to travel far, far back in time, long before the pyramids of Egypt, before kings and cities of stone. Back to a time when humans made one of the most important decisions in history: to stop wandering and stay in one place. To settle by the fire, beneath the stars, surrounded by the gentle sounds of the night. You're lying beside a small fire, its soft crackling blending with the distant rustle of wind through tall grass. The flames aren't large, but they're enough. Enough to warm your hands, enough to light a few familiar faces, and enough to gather people close. Tonight isn't lonely, it's peaceful. You're part of something quiet and important. You feel the ground beneath you, cushioned with dry grass and packed earth. The smell of smoke wraps around you, mingling with roasted meat and the damp scent of soil. The roof overhead is thatched with reeds and branches, and when the breeze slips through, it whispers like an old lullaby. You've heard the elders say that long ago, people never stayed in one place. They followed herds, chased the seasons. But something changed. Maybe it was this valley, with its sweet, clear stream, the soft hills catching morning sun, and the trees full of nuts and berries. Maybe it was the way this place felt like it wanted to be home. You don't know exactly why, but you do know this tonight. This place is home. Across the fire, a couple of kids are laughing. They're tossing acorns like pebbles, trying to knock over a small clay pot balanced on a stone. One of them hits it dead on, and it tumbles over with a hollow thud, spilling warm water. An older woman sighs, but she's smiling. She leans forward, carefully resets the pot, and stirs it with a long wooden spoon. The scent of wild grain porridge rises, thick and comforting. Not far away, a man adjusts the edge of the shelter, tightening sinew cords between two upright branches. You can hear them creak as he pulls, tying them off with calloused fingers. The breeze shifts. Tonight will be colder than last. You tug the animal hide closer around your shoulders and inch just a bit nearer to the firelight. You might doze off in a few minutes, that's totally okay. So, before you get too cozy, relaxed, and drift off to sleep, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy what I do here. And hey, I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. Drop your location and local time in the comments, I really do read them. Now, turn off the lights, maybe switch on a fan for that soft white noise, and let's begin tonight's journey together. You glance upward. With no streetlights, no buildings, and no cities, the night sky stretches forever. You can see everything. And in this world, people know the stars. Or at least, they know what they see in them. One person points and says, "That's the wing of a great bird," while another swears, "No, it's the hand of the sky giant holding a glowing spear." You're not sure who's right, but honestly, you kinda like both. You press your palm into the dirt and feel warmth from the fire sinking down into the soil. There's something deeply comforting in that. Nearby, someone coughs. Then there's laughter. A story is being told. You catch fragments, something about a deer, a giant footprint, and a cave that glows like a lantern. Historians still debate whether stories like these were based on real events or simply the first mythologies passed down through generations. But maybe that doesn't matter. What matters is that they're told and you're listening. In the glow of firelight, through repetition and memory, culture is quietly being born. You glance toward your grandmother. She's rinsing roots in a clay bowl filled with dark, fragrant water. Somehow, she knows everything. She can name a plant by its smell, feel the difference in soil just by touch, and predict weather from the sound of the leaves. She once told you the story of the first person to make fire not by luck, not by lightning, but on purpose, with stone, determination, and patience. Ever since then, people haven't feared the dark. They didn't have to hide in trees or caves anymore. We had fire. That makes you feel proud. Here's a weird fact. You might not expect. Some early people are believed to have used dried crocodile dung as sunscreen. No joke. Smelly, maybe. But hey, prehistoric SPF might have been ahead of its time. What do you think? Would it actually work? Leave a comment with your guess. You're getting sleepy now. Your eyes feel heavy. The fire's crackle is slow and steady like a calm, ancient heartbeat. Outside, the reed curtain at the door shifts in the breeze. Somewhere in the trees, an owl hoots softly and then goes silent. The fire's bright flames have turned to glowing coals. The last adult still awake gently pulls a hide over their shoulders and slips into the shadows towards sleep. You know the fire will be relit tomorrow, and you'll be there once again beside it, with the ones you care about, ready to listen to more stories, or hear the old ones told just a little differently. You wake to the smell of smoke, soft, not choking, and the faint scent of roasted chestnuts. Dawn has barely begun to stretch across the sky, painting the horizon in pale orange and gentle purples. You blink slowly, your breath visible in the cool air around you. The village stirs, not with alarms or urgency, but with the gentle rhythm of routine. Today is about building something new, a hearth, a proper one. You've had fires before, little ones in pits, with stones hastily ringed to keep the embers from escaping. But this is different. This will be the central fire, the one you'll cook on, gather around, pass down to your children's children. It's a big deal. A man named Turok leads the effort. He's not the chief, but he knows stone like no one else. His fingers are always dusty. You watch him kneel in the center of the clearing, using a stick to sketch in the soil, a circle, a trench, a spot for kindling, then flat rocks to hold pots above the flame. You're amazed how exact he is, like he's done this 100 times. But he hasn't. No one has. The village has decided this is the moment, time to shift from wandering fires to something permanent. Something you can gather around, no matter the season. You're handed a rock. It's warm from sitting near the morning fire. You help carry it to the center, where others are already forming a ring. It's like putting together a puzzle that no one's seen the picture of, one stone at a time. Some are smooth and gray, others are reddish and flaky. All feel heavy with meaning. Someone starts humming a low tune, rhythmic and slow. It spreads. Before long, most people are either moving or singing, working in time. It's not loud, it's steady, comforting, like the sound of the fire itself. As the ring grows, so does your pride. This isn't just a place to cook, it's a symbol. It says we live here now. We're not just passing through. This is where our children will grow, where our stories will stay warm. Did you know archaeologists once uncovered a hearth that had been used in the same spot for over 500 years? Layer upon layer of ash and charcoal. You can imagine how many meals, how many songs, how many quiet nights that fire must have witnessed. The sun rises higher, the sky turns a deeper blue. Shadows shrink as the new hearth takes shape. Turok nods and gestures toward the center. You and another child bring the dried grass and twigs. Your fingers are clumsy, but you tuck them carefully between the stones. Then comes the spark. Not everyone can do it, but today, Turok lets you try. You crouch down, heart beating a little too fast. You hold the flint, angle it just right. You strike once, twice. On the third try, there it is. A spark, tiny, but alive. It jumps into the kindling like it's been waiting for this moment. You blow gently, watching the smoke rise, and then, like a dream, the flame grows. Everyone leans in. The song stops. No one speaks. The fire flickers higher, and just like that, the hearth is born. A child nearby claps quietly. Someone brings over a pot of roots and water. It's placed on a flat stone, and soon it's bubbling. Steam floats upward in slow spirals. The first meal at the new hearth begins to cook. And in this quiet moment, you notice something strange. There's no need for words. The fire speaks enough. The crackling says you're safe. The warmth says you belong here. The smoke hurling into the sky says this place matters. Some historians argue about exactly when the first permanent hearths appeared. Was it in the Levant or farther east? Were they used daily or only for rituals? The truth is, we may never know the exact origin, but we know this: once humans sat together around a single fire, everything changed. You walk a slow circle around the hearth. There's something sacred about it. The way the stones hold heat, the way the flames dance even without wind. You spot a handprint in one of the stones, probably pressed there when it was still damp clay. Maybe someone just like you left it. Maybe they were dreaming too. And now, a question for you. If you could leave one thing in a stone today, for someone to find thousands of years from now, what would it be? A symbol, a name, a joke I really want to hear? Your answer in the comments. As the sun climbs higher, the village begins to return to its daily rhythm. Some head to the stream to check the fish traps. Others gather berries or pick leaves for tea. But you stay near the fire. You like watching it. You like how it never looks the same twice. There's a kind of magic in knowing that something so simple: flame, stone, smoke can change everything. You sit back, letting your eyes soften. The fire blurs into orange and gold. You hear footsteps behind you, the quiet clinking of wooden tools being packed away. But it all feels far away now. The new hearth crackles, the pot bubbles, and for the first time, you feel something settle deep in your chest. Not just comfort, not just warmth, but home. The wind picks up that evening, gently tugging at the edges of your shelter. It whistles softly through the reeds tied to the frame, creating a kind of music, an accidental lullaby made by the village itself. You sit just inside the doorway, watching the sky shift from pale gold to deep blue. Tonight, the fire is different. It's not just a flame now, it's the hearth. And that word carries weight. It means warmth, yes, but it also means family, food, laughter, safety, a place where stories are told, where bones are warmed, and where eyes close softly at the end of the day. But to make a hearth, you need more than fire. You need walls. You need a roof. You need a home. And that's today's task. You're helping build one your own, maybe, or one for your neighbors. The grown-ups argue about the best way to do it. Some say the wind comes mostly from the east and the door should face west. Others say the sun rises from the east and the light should pour in each morning. You don't have an opinion, you just carry sticks. Thick ones for the frame, thin ones to weave the walls. Some are green and flexible, others dry and brittle. You notice how they smell different, some earthy, some sweet, some like sap still flows in them. You like that part. You remember the way your fingers feel sticky after handling fresh cut branches, and how that sap leaves a scent even after washing your hands in the stream. You help your friend wedge a heavy pole into the ground. It's awkward and stubborn. It doesn't want to go in straight. You laugh when it wobbles and nearly topples both of you. Someone makes a joke. Maybe it wants to be a tree again. Everyone chuckles, even the serious builder types. That's a good sign. Soon, the skeleton of the shelter is standing, a ring of upright poles, curved beams crossing above. It looks a bit like a rib cage open and waiting to be covered with skin. And now comes the tricky part, the walls. Wattle and daub, that's what they call it, even if no one's ever written those words down. The wattle is the woven part, thin, bendy branches crisscrossed like a basket. And the daub, well, that's the fun part. It's mud, and not just any mud. It's a special mix of clay, straw, ashes, and yes, dung. You try not to think too hard about that last part. You squish the mixture between your fingers. It's warm from the sun and smells like earth after a rain. You slap it onto the wall and spread it like jam on bread. It oozes between the woven sticks and hardens in the air. The texture is rough, lumpy, but solid. This isn't just a wall, it's insulation. It holds in heat, blocks out wind and muffles sound. You imagine lying inside on a cold night, wrapped in furs, hearing only the quiet crackle of the hearth fire and the occasional owl hoot from the trees. It sounds perfect. Did you know some ancient houses were so well built? Their foundations are still visible today. Thousands of years later, archaeologists have found whole floor plans preserved under layers of soil and time. It's kind of amazing to think a home you helped build could last that long. You take a break and walk a little ways from the village, just enough to hear the wind better, feel the openness. From here, the homes look like soft, round mounds like Earth decided to grow shelters on its back. Thin lines of smoke curl from each one, rising straight until the wind catches them and bends them gently westward. You sit on a smooth rock and let your thoughts wander. The sun is low now, golden and kind. You trace a shape in the dirt with your toe, a spiral, like the one your grandmother wears on her necklace. A question drifts into your mind. If you could build your dream home, what would it look like? Would it have stars painted on the ceiling, a secret tunnel under the floor, a door that sings when you open it? I'd love to know your answers in the comments. Back in the village, the walls are nearly done. People are patting the last bits of mud into place. Someone's carved a symbol above the doorframe, 2 lines, crossed at an angle, like arms embracing. You step inside the nearly finished shelter. It's still cool and shadowy, but it already feels right. There's a spot cleared for the hearth, a soft dip in the floor where bedding will go. Even the smell of clay, grass, and smoke is comforting. You lie down for a moment, just to test it. You can hear muffled voices outside, someone laughing, a child humming. The roof creaks slightly as it settles into place. Dust dances in the air, caught in a single beam of light slipping through the doorway. The day is almost over. The fire is waiting. And now, for the first time, there's a real shelter to go with it. The hearth will glow tonight. And this home, still damp with fresh mud, will be warm tomorrow. It will smell of food and fire. Next week, it'll hold baskets and blankets and dreams. And next year, who knows? Maybe it'll be yours. The sky this morning is soft, like someone spilled milk across the horizon. A low mist hangs just above the ground, curling around the huts like a protective blanket. You step outside your newly built shelter and stretch, arms high, breathing in the rich scent of wet earth and something sweet. You follow your nose toward the hearth, where something special is happening. A group is gathered around a flat stone slab, dusted with something pale and fine ground grain. Someone tells you they have been working since before sunrise, pounding dried grass seeds with stones, grinding and grinding until the seeds became powder. It's coarse and golden, smelling a little like roasted nuts and sunshine. Today is the first time your people are going to bake bread. You crouch beside the others and watch as they mix the powder with water from the stream, just a little at a time. It turns into dough sticky and clinging to their fingers. A woman kneads it patiently, folding and pressing with practiced rhythm, even though no one here has actually done this before. It's instinct, maybe memory passed down in hands instead of words. You reach in to help. The dough is cool, wet, alive under your palms. You press and turn it, feel it fight back, then soften. Someone laughs softly and says, "It's like taming a wild animal." They shape the dough into small, round cakes and lay them carefully on the hot stone slab near the fire. There's no oven yet, just heat, patience, and hope. The first few pieces burn, black on one side, raw on the other. But the smoke smells amazing, nutty, warm, and a little grassy. You'd eat it anyway, and you do, tearing off a hissing hot piece with your fingers. It's chewy, strange, and utterly delicious. You've never tasted anything quite like it. Later, when the technique improves and the bread brown's just right, the whole village lines up for a bite. You pass out pieces, steam curling from everyone. It feels like a celebration, even if there's no dancing or music, just bread, warm from the fire, passed from hand to hand. Some historians believe that bread, this simple act of grinding, mixing, and baking, was one of the reasons humans settled in the first place. That growing grain and learning to bake gave people a reason to stay close to one patch of land. Not just food, but stable food. Food that waited for you instead of running away. It makes you wonder, what would you stay for? If you had to choose one thing: comfort, a person, a flavor, a memory, what would keep you in one place? By mid-morning, someone has drawn a spiral in the ashes next to the hearth. Another person adds dots around it, then handprints in mud. The hearth has become more than just useful. It's becoming art, a shared canvas, a symbol of belonging. Here's a strange detail you overheard in one far-off village. It's said they add crushed insect shells to their bread to give it crunch and color. Doesn't sound like your thing, maybe, but then again, if that's what you grew up with, who knows? The fire crackles steadily as more dough is laid down. The smell of fresh bread mixes with the ever-present smoke and the sweet scent of the wildflowers growing along the edge of the settlement. You sit back and close your eyes for a moment. There's a fullness in your belly and a quiet joy in your chest. All around you, people are smiling, not big, loud smiles, but small ones. The kind that come from knowing you've made something together, something simple, something good. And of course, the debate begins. Not everyone agrees on what to call this new thing. Some say sun cakes, others say ground fruit. A few kids start calling it ash bites, which makes you laugh. There's a little friendly arguing, but no one gets upset. It's just one more way to mark the moment, to put names to the newness. You lean close to the fire again and imagine something, a future time, maybe hundreds or thousands of years from now. People gathered just like this, baking bread, laughing, living. Will they remember you? Will they still bake bread on stones? Will they tell stories about the first hearth, the first fire, the first loaves? There's a kind of peace in that thought. Somewhere in the background, a child plays with the leftover dough, shaping it into little animals, a deer, a snake, a bird. The bird falls apart, and the child laughs, smearing dough across their cheek like war paint. You smile. You glance back at the fire, still going strong. Your eyes trace the shape of the flames, the way they lick the edge of the stones, the shadows they cast on the hut walls. You think this is what it means to build something lasting, to create, to share, to stay. The sun is warm on your back now. A breeze picks up, rustling the grass and swaying the reed roofs. It carries the scent of bread across the clearing and into the woods beyond, maybe even to another settlement if anyone's close enough to smell it. And then a thought hits you. What if someone is out there catching that scent and wondering who you are? If that's you, somewhere in the future, listening to this and imagining the past, we made bread today, and it was perfect. The stars are out again, blinking gently across the night sky like they're watching, always watching, tonight. You're not just staring up at them, you're listening. Because tonight is a story, night. You gather around the hearth, its glow soft and steady, like a second sun just for you. Sparks rise in slow spirals, joining the stars overhead in quiet conversation. The smell of the day's fire still lingers, smoke and bread. A hint of mint leaves tossed in the flames to clear the air. Everyone is here, grandparents with skin like weathered bark, children squirming under furs, mothers feeding babies, and fathers leaning on their elbows, eyes half-lidded but alert. Someone sharpens a bone needle. Someone else weaves grass between their toes. It's all very still, but alive, like the whole village is breathing together. And then the voice begins. It's old Mira, of course. Her voice is slow and low, like the sound of wind pushing through tall reeds. You can barely hear her at first, but that's the trick. She makes you lean in, makes you listen. She tells a story about before the village, before the hearth, before even the fire. A time, she says, when people didn't stay, They walked with the moon, slept beneath the sky, and the stars didn't know their names yet. You can almost picture it: empty hills, giant beasts, rivers that moved without banks, people with only what they could carry, no homes, no stories. Until one woman, tired of walking, sat down and refused to move. "No more," she said. "I'll wait right here." Everyone else laughed and kept walking, but she stayed. She built a little nest of branches, made a spark with stones, boiled roots in a shell, and that was the first hearth. That was the beginning of staying. Some say it's just a tale, a comfort story, historians might call it. Others argue whether this woman ever existed, or if she's a blend of many, forgotten by name but remembered by flame. But here, tonight, no one's debating. They're listening, because the fire flickers just right, and the sky above twinkles like it remembers. And now, Mira's voice changes, lighter. She tells a different kind of story, one about a man who chased a dream animal through the woods, only to find a cave full of glowing stones. Everyone leans in at that part. You try to imagine the colors. Were they blue-red? Did they hum like bees? Mira never says. That's not the point, she laughs. The point is, he came back and shared the story, and that made it real. You like that part? How telling the story makes it true. Somehow, someone offers you a strip of dried fruit, chewy and sweet. You nibble it slowly, trying not to crunch too loudly. The fire pops. A baby sighs in its sleep. Someone begins to hum softly beneath Mira's words, almost like background music. Here's a curious fact. Some early human settlements had no writing, no symbols at all, but every single one had a fire circle, a place to sit, a place to listen. That's how people remembered. That's how they passed down what mattered. And here's a fun detail for you in one ancient site. Archaeologists found a clay tablet with a thumbprint pressed into it next to a spiral, and what might have been a crude drawing of someone snoring. Was it art, a joke? Maybe both? You think about that as Mira continues. Her stories blend now, animals that speak, rivers that know your name, children born under certain stars who can never lie. They don't all make sense, and that's fine. No one questions the logic. These stories aren't puzzles. They're blankets. They keep you warm, and they're interactive too. "Why do you think the stars don't fall?" Mira asks suddenly, turning to the circle. You blink, caught off guard. A few people shrug. Someone says, "Because they like watching us." Mira nods. "Exactly." "And you, what do you think?" Leave a comment with your theory. Seriously, I want to hear it. The night gets quieter. Mira's voice fades. A few people have already dozed off, leaning on one another like stones in a ring. The fire's lower now, mostly coals and the occasional flame. It doesn't matter. The stories have lit something else in you, something deeper. You think about how, long before books, movies, or YouTube, this was it. This was entertainment. This was memory. And it still works. You lie back, staring up at the stars, trying to find the shapes Mira mentioned, the bear, the drum, the dancer in the sky, and before you know it, your eyes begin to close. Your last thought before sleep comes, is this the fire, the stories, the people? They're not separate things. They're all part of the same circle, just like you. The morning is quiet, not with stillness, but with peace. Dew clings to the grass in silver beads, and the first light of day gently brushes over the tops of the huts. You open your eyes slowly, blink against the brightness, and stretch beneath your fur blanket. From somewhere nearby, a rooster well, more of a very enthusiastic bird, calls out with a screech that sounds like someone trying to learn flute. Not elegant, but effective. You sit up and look around. The village is waking, and you're part of its breath. The fire is already going, the soft crackle of flames sounding like it never stopped from the night before. You pad barefoot toward it, still rubbing sleep from your eyes. A few others are already gathered, sipping warm broth from wooden bowls. You accept one, cradling it in your hands like a little son. The steam fogs your face, and the first sip is rich and savory, made from boiled herbs and yesterday's roots. It's comfort in liquid form. But today, you're not staying by the hearth, not for long. You've been chosen for a special task, an old one, important and surprisingly quiet. You're going to watch the sky. You and two others head out beyond the edge of the village, climbing a low rise where the trees thin out and the view is wide and clear. The grass is damp and cool beneath your feet, brushing against your ankles as you walk. A soft breeze carries the scent of flowers, wood smoke, and earth. You arrive at the spot, a flat rock worn smooth by time and footsteps. From here, you can see the horizon in nearly every direction. The stream glints below like a silver snake. In the far distance, a line of dark green trees marks the forest edge. An overhead sky, deep blue, endless. You lie back and begin your quiet work. You're not just stargazing this time. You're learning, watching, mapping. Somewhere in the village, the elders have scratched little marks onto stones and wood to remember what they've seen. The pattern of the moon, how the stars shift with the seasons, when the sun rises in just the right place. This is how your people know when to plant, when to hunt, when to rest. You're part of that knowledge now. As you lie there, you start to notice things. The sun rises a little farther to the left than it did last month. A certain group of birds flies in a V shape, always in the same direction. A shadow from the tall stone nearby reaches your foot exactly at midday. It's not magic, it's memory. Historians still debate whether ancient people had calendars, real calendars in these early days. But honestly, when you watch the sky long enough, you don't need numbers. You just need rhythm. And your body learns that rhythm the same way it learns to breathe, to sleep, to love. You find yourself tracing shapes in the clouds as someone else marks the stone beside you with charcoal. One shape looks like a wolf, another like a bowl. You laugh and point them out, and your friend adds little ears to the wolf sketch just for fun. Did you know some early cultures carved star maps into bone or stone, passing them from hand to hand like treasure, not for power, for understanding? One of your friends says quietly, "That star always comes back when the nights get longer." You look up and nod. It's true. That one little bright point, it's like a seasonal friend. You wonder if you could name a star. What would you call it? Would it be something serious, like Guardian of the South, or something silly, like Grandma's elbow comment below? I'd love to hear your best star names. By midday, the light has changed. The shadows have moved. You've marked the spots, noted the time by the fire's angle back home. You've learned something today, not just about the sky, but about patience. You walk back to the village with quiet steps. Not because you're tired, but because your thoughts are full. The fire welcomes you home like always, crackling softly, waiting. Someone hands you a piece of fruit, dried and sticky. Another offers a seat by the hearth. A child asks, "Did you see the star that follows the moon?" You smile and say, "Maybe." Because really, who's to say? The day ends slowly. The sun sinks lower, stretching golden light across the village like warm honey. The shadows grow longer, the air cooler, the fire glows brighter against the dimming sky. And as night falls once more, you find your gaze drifting up again, not for a task, not for memory, just for the joy of it. The sky above the first settlements wasn't just a ceiling, it was a map, a story, a companion, and you're learning to read it, one breath at a time. The world is damp and glowing when you wake. Morning dew clings to everything, blades of grass, the tips of woven huts, even your eyelashes. It feels like the earth has taken a deep breath overnight and let it out slowly, coating the village in a cool, quiet hush. You hear the soft rustling of reed mats being lifted, sleepy groans, and someone muttering about stepping in mud again. The hearth is being stirred back to life, smoke rising lazily as bits of last night's fire are coaxed into glowing once more. Today feels different not because of what's happening, but because of how it happens. You notice everything with sharper attention, Maybe it's because you spent yesterday watching the sky. Or maybe it's just the calm before another new rhythm begins. This morning is all about the little things, the rituals of waking up in a place that's slowly becoming civilization. First comes the brushing of mats, shaking off dew and tiny bugs. The fibers whisper against the ground like soft brushes. You roll yours tightly and tie it with a bit of braided grass string, placing it beside the hut entrance, exactly where it always goes. It's a small act, but it means something. Then there's the drawing of water. You walk barefoot to the stream, carrying a clay pot with a chip on one side, a chip you made, actually, while pretending it was a drum 2 days ago. You dip it carefully, letting the coolness flow over your wrists. The water smells clean and sweet, and you watch it swirl inside the pot before lifting it, carefully balanced on your hip. Back at the hearth, you help pour water into a large bowl with ground herbs and bits of dried fish. The mixture will simmer slowly all morning, perfuming the air with a scent that's both sharp and comforting, like the smell of brine and sage, or sea air after a rainstorm. These are not grand events, but they are everything. Because these moments, this drawing of water, this stirring of a pot, this simple sharing of space are how a culture grows. Not with kings or wars or speeches, but with repetition, with care, with the quiet choosing of togetherness over chaos. Anthropologists sometimes call this domesticity, but honestly, that word sounds too cold, too academic. This is softer, warmer. It's not about managing a house, it's about building a life. You sit on a low stool near the fire and watch the village wake fully. Children run around barefoot, chasing a dog that definitely doesn't want to play. Someone is singing not loud, not structured, just humming a tune as they weave baskets out of fresh reeds. The pattern is circular, steady. You try to follow it with your eyes over, under, twist, repeat. Want to try weaving sometime? Grab some paper strips or string and try that same pattern over, under, twist. You'll be surprised how calming it is. Kinda like braiding thoughts. Here's something strange. Archaeologists once found a perfectly preserved basket buried under volcanic ash, still holding nuts from nearly 9,000 years ago. Imagine making something so well that it could survive for millennia. That's not just skill, that's legacy. Your thoughts drift to the small things your own people will leave behind, a wooden spoon carved with a spiral, the chipped pot you carry water in, the blackened stones of the hearth itself. These aren't grand monuments, but they matter. What would you leave behind if you knew someone might find it thousands of years from now? A drawing, a story, maybe your favorite joke. Speaking of jokes, someone behind you says, "What did the fish say when it hit the stone wall?" You turn, and they grin. Damn. You groan and laugh at the same time. Even in the Stone Age, bad puns survive. By midday, the fire has cooked the stew into something rich and smoky. People gather again, no formality, just a natural flow. You take a warm bowl and eat slowly, letting the heat spread through your body like sunlight through skin. There's a rhythm to it all now. Wake, gather, eat, build, rest, and then do it again. But never exactly the same. That's the beauty of it. The sounds of the village rise into a peaceful buzz. Quiet voices, dogs barking, birds chirping from the trees, the ever-present whisper of the fire. You lean back and close your eyes for a moment, the warmth of the bowl still in your hands, the feeling of community wrapped around you like a soft fur cloak. You think this is what home sounds like. This is what belonging feels like. And for the first time in your life, you realize that you don't miss the wild, because a different kind of wild has grown here. One made of people, and stories, and fires that never go out. The wind picks up in the late afternoon, warm and dry, stirring the dust into soft little spirals near the edge of the clearing. You're crouched by a flat stone, squinting down at the array of objects spread before you. Pieces of rock, ash, crushed berries, and something sticky that might be tree sap or maybe something you'd rather not ask about. You're making paint. Not for your face. Not this time. This paint is meant for something bigger. You've been watching the adults prepare a wall of the gathering shelter, the smoothest stretch of daub you've seen. Pale and clean, like a blank scroll. It's calling out for color, for story, for marking. Someone hands you a small chunk of red ochre, rubbed soft at the edges like a river stone. It leaves streaks on your fingertips, earthy and rich. You smile. This is the stuff of ancient magic. It's time to decorate the inside of the village, not with gold or carvings, just handprints, shapes, and ideas that only barely make sense. But somehow, they feel important. You sit cross-legged and crush the ochre against the stone, mixing it with a drop of water and a smear of animal fat. The result is gritty, almost clay-like. You dab a finger in and drag it across your forearm. It sticks. It stains. Perfect. Someone beside you is working with charcoal and crushed blueberry skins, deep purples and blacks that blend into a rich, stormy blue. Another person tries using ashes, but it falls apart until someone mixes it with honey. Suddenly, it sticks. Another accidental recipe discovered. And now, the wall. You walk slowly toward it, bowl of red in hand. The surface is cool, just a little rough, like old bark. You press your hand into the paint, then slap it gently onto the wall. A perfect print. You stare at it, your hand, preserved in color. It almost glows in the light of the late sun. Someone gasps softly behind you. Then the others begin. One by one, palms appear across the surface, big ones, tiny ones, a few with missing fingers. It becomes a pattern, a circle, a symbol. And in the middle, someone starts drawing, a stick figure, then a deer, then a curling line that might be water, or wind, or song. Nobody says much. There's no need. The wall fills slowly with life. Some historians believe early art wasn't just decoration, it was communication. A way to say, we were here, we felt this, we wanted someone to know. Others argue it had spiritual meaning, a kind of silent prayer painted in ochre and ash. You wonder, what are you trying to say? You dip a piece of bone into the purple paint and sketch a spiral. No one asks why, they just nod. Here's a strange fact for you in one ancient site. A cave painting shows a row of dots beneath a bison. For years, no one knew what they meant. Then someone realized they matched the phases of the moon. A calendar written in dots. Brilliant. You sit back and look at the wall again. It's beautiful, but not in a neat, perfect way. It's alive. You can see joy and memory and hands that didn't always know what they were doing, but kept trying anyway. That's art. And then someone starts singing. It's not a loud song, just a hum, a rhythm. You've heard it before at the harvest, during the last fish catch, once when a child was born. It's one of those songs that belongs to everyone, even if no one remembers who made it. You hum along, you dip your fingers in the paint again and trace the line of the spiral, making it longer, letting it wrap around a handprint and twist upward like a vine. Someone adds dots. Someone else presses a feather into the corner. Soon the wall is buzzing with creativity, like bees working a flower. You pause for a second, watching the others. Most aren't artists. Not really. They're hunters, gatherers, potters, mothers, stone carvers. But today, all of them are creators. Because when you live close to the fire, close to the earth, you don't wait for permission to make things. You just do it. And if someone tells you it's not good, you point to the hearth and say, neither is that stew if no one stirs it. That usually works. As the sun begins to sink, shadows stretch long across the wall. The colors change, glowing warmer. The handprints look like they're waving. You place one last mark, a curved line beneath your earlier spiral, and then step back. The wall is complete. Or at least, today's wall is, because tomorrow, or next season, or next year, someone else will add to it. Maybe even someone who hasn't been born yet. That's how it works. You wonder what story will they see when they look at your spiral. Will they guess right? Or will they make up something better? Tell me if you could paint anything on a wall for future humans to see. What would it be? A creature, a phrase, a joke? Let me know in the comments. Maybe together, we'll start our own modern wall. As evening falls, the wall is left to dry. Everyone drifts back toward the hearth, fingers stained, faces smiling. You feel something settle in your chest, a warmth not from fire, but from connection. Because you didn't just make art today, you left a mark. The fire burns a little brighter tonight, like it knows something special is about to happen. You can feel it in the air, charged, but calm. It's not just another meal, not another story night. Tonight is a celebration, the kind that doesn't need a name, the kind that happens because people feel good and want to share it. It begins, as so many things do here, with food. You smell it before you see it: roasted roots, wild herbs, sweet berries, and something sizzling that makes your mouth water instantly. You follow the scent toward the communal hearth, where several people are preparing a large flat stone for cooking. It's been heating all afternoon, soaking in fire like a sunbathed rock on a summer day. At the edge of the clearing, others are arriving in clusters, laughing, arms full of bundles wrapped in leaves. One man carries something that looks suspiciously like a fish 3 times the size of his arm. Someone else has a basket of puffed grain cakes, still warm. Children trail behind, clutching berries and flowers like little offerings. No one announces the start. There's no official ceremony, just movement, just rhythm. A low drum beat begins hands on hollowed wood, thumping softly. Then a flute, simple and breathy, joins in. The notes float like smoke over the clearing. You hum along without realizing. The feast unfolds in waves. Food is passed, bites are stolen. Someone drops a bundle of mushrooms and laughs as a dog snatches them. You take a piece of roasted root and bite in, soft, buttery, earthy. Someone hands you a grain cake, and it crumbles perfectly in your mouth. The flavors are simple, but they matter. They taste like care, like time. And then come the dancers. It starts with one child, hopping from foot to foot like a bird. Then 2 more join. Then an older woman, moving with the slow grace of someone who's danced this way for decades. The movements are familiar, not choreographed, just passed down. A circle forms, the fire in the middle. The music builds still gentle, but steady. And now, you're dancing too. Not because someone told you to, because your body remembers. Your feet know the steps before your mind does. You sway, spin, laugh, lose your balance, catch it again. Someone claps for you. You clap back. There's a rhythm to it all, a heartbeat rising from the ground. You don't know how long it lasts. Time folds itself in moments like this. You're not counting seconds, you're feeling them. Historians often puzzle over ancient celebrations. Were they religious, social, seasonal? But maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe people just needed joy and found it in the easiest place around the fire, with full bellies, with music. Here's a weird fact in some ancient sites. Archaeologists found signs of dance floors, places where repeated foot traffic had compacted the earth into a smooth, springy surface. Picture that. Generations of feet dancing in the same spot. Like joy had worn a groove into the planet. And here's something else. Some believe early feasts weren't just about celebration, but about trust. Sharing food, laughter, space, saying, "We are safe together." You pause and look around. There's a woman weaving feathers into someone's hair. A group of kids lying on their backs, watching sparks rise into the sky. 2 elders sipping broth in silence, smiling with their whole bodies. And you, somewhere in the middle of it all, glowing. You think, this is what it means to belong. And then someone pulls out the moon cakes. Not actual cakes. They're grain puffs, flattened and scorched lightly on the hearthstone, brushed with berry mash until they gleam under the firelight. They're sweet and chewy, and shaped more or less like little moons. You take one, bite, It sticks to your teeth and tastes like celebration, like summer, even if it's not summer yet. And suddenly, someone says, "Tell a story," and the music softens. People settle again around the fire. One man stands and begins a tale about a child who sang so well, the wind followed her home. Another adds a twist, she had talking feet. A third chimes in the feet only spoke at night. Laughter, groans, applause. You're asked to add something. You panic for half a second, then say, "She could only dance when she sneezed." It's ridiculous and perfect. You wonder, what would your festival tradition be? A special dance, a dish you invent. Maybe a night where everyone wears leaves and speaks only in riddles. Drop your ideas in the comments. I want to know what your version of joy looks like. The night grows later. The stars crowd in. The fire burns low but steady. People begin to drift, full and happy, into the shadows towards sleep. You linger, curled near the hearth, face warm, limbs heavy. You close your eyes. The drum beat is still echoing in your chest. The smell of roasted grain clings to your hair. The memory of spinning and laughing feels stitched into your muscles. And as you drift into dreams, you think, we baked, we danced, we laughed. And we will again. The dog shows up around midday. Not from the forest edge, not dragged behind a hunter, not carried in someone's arms. It simply appears, like a puff of fur and dust and curiosity, sniffing its way through the reeds near the hearth as if it had always belonged here. It's not large, about the size of a very enthusiastic rabbit, but it walks with a confidence that makes you pause. Scruffy gray fur, one ear standing up, the other flopping like it couldn't decide. Its tail wags in slow, unsure loops, like it's not quite sure if this is a place it's allowed to be. You crouch low, careful not to startle it. Your hand extends slowly with a chunk of dried meat from your lunch route, seasoned and a little tough. The dog sniffs the air, takes 2 cautious steps forward, then snatches the meat and darts back. But not far. It flops onto its belly just out of reach and chews, loudly, eyes still on you. You don't say anything, you just wait. Later, when someone calls for help sorting roots, you glance back. The dog follows. Not close, not quite yours, but not yours either. That evening, it circles the hearth from a distance. No one invites it, no one shoos it. It's just there, watching, listening. When the drums start again softer tonight, more like a heartbeat, it doesn't run. It lowers its head onto its paws and sighs like it's heard this rhythm before. Some believe the first dogs weren't tamed through dominance, but through firelight, through scraps and patience and quiet acceptance. That humans didn't force wild animals into service, we just made spaces safe enough for trust to grow. And that's what this little animal seems to be doing, trusting. You wake the next morning to find it curled beside the ashes of the hearth, nose tucked beneath its tail, one floppy ear twitching in sleep. You smile. It's official now. The dog has chosen you. You start calling it Ash because its fur is the same color as the fire dust. A few others suggest names: Snack, Little Beast, Flop, but Ash sticks. Mostly because every time someone says it, the dog looks up. Ash follows you everywhere, not glued to your side, just hovering nearby like a fuzzy thought. It noses at the edges of woven mats, steals bits of bread, and occasionally barks at butterflies like they owe it money. And when you sit by the fire, Ash lies beside you, chin resting on your foot. You didn't plan for this, but somehow it feels right. Historians still debate exactly how dogs became humans' companions. Was it mutual survival, a hunting alliance, or just shared warmth on cold nights? Some think the process took thousands of years. Others say it could have happened in just a few generations. But no matter the timeline, it started like this. With a fire, with a feeling, with someone offering a scrap and waiting to see what might happen. Det kan boestint vår inbidjurentar. And here's a weird detail in one burial site. Archaeologists found a dog skeleton curled beside a child, both wrapped in woven mats. both laid to rest with beads and tools. It wasn't just a pet, it was family. You think about that as Ash barks at a leaf for the fourth time today. What is it, you ask? It wags its tail, like, don't worry, I've got this. You can't help laughing. Some things never change. Now, here's a question for you. If you had your own ancient companion animal, not just a dog, what would it be? A fox, a giant bird, a talking raccoon? Leave a comment and tell me what creature would walk beside you. Back at the hearth, someone is mixing herbs for a stew, and Ash gives them a look that clearly says, I will guard your pot with my life if you let me lick the spoon. The cook rolls their eyes, then tosses over a bone. Ash is in heaven. As evening falls, a few people gather to tell animal stories, tales of clever wolves, friendly bears, a horse that could find lost children in the dark. Someone asks if Ash will ever be part of one of those stories. You glance down. The dog is already asleep, belly up, snoring like it's trying to start its own fire. You grin. It already is. The stars come out. The fire crackles. And for the first time in your life, you feel the presence of something beyond just people. A connection to the wild that doesn't feel scary anymore. It feels loyal, kind, curious. You reach down and scratch behind Ash's ear. The floppy one, of course. The forest hums as you step beneath its canopy. Not loud, never loud, but alive. Leaves rustle with the breeze. Insects chirp in secret rhythms. And somewhere far off, water drips slowly over stone. Every sound feels like it has a purpose, like the forest is speaking in its own soft language. You've come here with a small group, just 4 of you and Ash, trotting along happily with a stick in its mouth. Your goal: to gather supplies for the hearth bark for baskets, resin for sealing pots, and something special your grandmother called healing leaves. You're not exactly sure what they look like, but she promised you'd know them when you saw them. And she was right. The forest is dense, but not dark. Sunlight filters through the leaves in golden beams that dance as the wind stirs the branches. The air smells rich like soil, sap, and distant flowers. You inhale deeply, letting your lungs fill with the ancient scent of life. You follow a narrow path, barely more than a deer trail. Ferns brush against your knees. At one point, you hear a rustle and freeze, but it's only a rabbit, staring at you with one twitching ear before bounding away through the underbrush. You smile, the forest sees you, accepts you, just like the hearth did. Your group spreads out, eyes scanning the ground and low branches. One person finds a vine strong enough to braid into rope. Another collects bits of fungus growing on a fallen log, useful for fire starting, and possibly for medicine. 2. You crouch near a patch of moss, and that's when you see it. The healing leaves. They're small and fuzzy, with a pale green tint and veins that shimmer faintly when the light hits just right. You reach out and brush one gently with your fingertips. It's soft, almost like animal fur, and carries a clean, slightly minty scent. You gather a small handful, wrapping them in a scrap of bark as you were taught. Nearby, someone calls out they've found resin seeping from a tree trunk. It glows amber in the sunlight, sticky and slow-moving. It smells like something between pine and honey, useful for sealing cracks, waterproofing, and your friend claims for chewing during long walks. You're skeptical, but curious. Ash appears at your side, tail wagging, muzzle dusted with forest debris. It drops the stick at your feet and immediately picks up another one. You get the feeling this is more about the game than the stick. As you work, you begin to notice the forest in a new way, not as something wild and separate, but as a partner. Every plant, every root, every sound is part of the same rhythm you hear at the hearth. The forest breathes, so do you. Did you know some of the earliest settlements were located near forests, not just for wood, but for medicine? Ancient people knew which leaves cooled fevers, which bark soothed pain, which berries helped wounds heal faster. They may not have known why, but they knew it worked. There's a theory some anthropologists debate that plants and people co-evolved in mutual trust. that we learned to listen to the land not because we had to, but because we chose to. You believe it? How could you not? Here's something strange in one archaeological site. Researchers found a carefully arranged bundle of herbs buried alongside a body. Not food, not tools, just plants wrapped in grass, tied with string, a gift for the afterlife, or a memory, maybe, a reminder of the forest they loved. You pause at the edge of a small clearing where mushrooms grow in a circle. A fairy ring, someone whispers. No one dares step inside, not because they're afraid, but because they respect it. Some things just feel sacred. You sit for a moment and take it all in. The light, the silence, the sense that you're not the first to sit in this very spot. What would you gather if you had your own ancient forest healing leaves, magical roots, a bark that sings when it burns? Tell me in the comments. I'm always curious what kind of things you'd pack for your prehistoric toolkit. As the sun begins to sink, you and your group gather everything you found into bundles. The forest has given much, and you leave small gifts in return: a carved bead, a braid of grass, a whispered thank you. Ash runs ahead, leading you home. Its tail disappears through the brush, and you follow, feet light, arms full. Back at the village, the hearth glows, waiting. The scent of stew hangs in the air, and someone waves you over to join the circle. You sit down, place your leaves beside you, and look into the fire. And in that moment, you realize the hearth is the forest, the clay, the fuel, the food, the warmth. They all come from the trees, the roots, the soil. You haven't left the wild behind. You've just learned how to bring it home. The rain starts gently, like a whisper tapping on the thatched roof above your head. You're still half asleep when you first hear it. Soft, irregular drips that turn into a steady rhythm, like fingers drumming lightly on a wooden drum. You roll over, pulling the fur blanket up to your chin, eyes closed, listening. There's something oddly comforting about the sound of rain when you know you're dry, warm, and surrounded by people who will keep the fire going no matter what. Eventually, you stretch, yawn, and sit up. The air inside the shelter is cooler today, damp and scented with the earthy smell of wet clay and wood smoke. Outside, the rain falls in soft sheets, misting the edges of the clearing and running in tiny rivers through the packed dirt paths. No one is rushing. Rainy days move slower. You step outside, ducking under the low opening of the shelter, and feel the cool droplets kiss your skin. The ground is soft, and your feet squish slightly as you make your way toward the hearth, where a large hide has been stretched overhead to shield the flames. The fire is smaller this morning, more contained, but steady. You love how it still holds its shape even in the damp, the embers glowing like sleeping stars, the wood hissing gently. Someone is stirring a pot, steam rising in lazy coils that mix with the rain mist in the air. You sit down beside the hearth and wrap your arms around your knees. Ash flops beside you, muddy-pawed and perfectly content to lie half in the rain. A few people hum quietly as they work braiding fibers, scraping hides, patching baskets. Rainy days are for indoor jobs, and there's a calm acceptance to it all. And that's the magic of the hearth. It doesn't stop because the weather changes. If anything, it becomes more important. A warm fire on a rainy day is like a promise we're still okay. There's an old story someone tells as the rain continues, about a time long ago before shelters, before hearths, when people had to huddle under trees, hoping the storm would pass. In the story, the rain lasted 7 nights. The people nearly gave up, but one woman kept the embers of their fire wrapped in moss, tucked inside a hollow horn. She carried it every day, every night, until finally, the rain stopped, and with her ember, they made fire again. Historians say people have been protecting fire this way for tens of thousands of years, carrying it in baskets, moss, even shells. Because fire wasn't just warmth, it was continuity. If you lost it, you had to start over. And sometimes, starting over was impossible. You look into your own fire and think of that ember, glowing silently in a horn, hidden in the folds of someone's coat. That's how much it mattered. Here's a curious detail for you in one site, dating back over 10,000 years. Archaeologists found a stone with a perfect blackened hollow in the middle, just the right size to hold a smoldering coal. It was a portable hearth, a pocket of civilization in the wilderness. As the morning stretches on, someone suggests drying herbs over the fire. Not the healing kind this time, but the ones that smell amazing wild mint, lavender, and a strange, lemony grass you don't have a name for. They're bundled and hung from sticks above the flame, and soon the entire hearth area smells like a fresh spring morning. It's almost too relaxing. Rain taps gently on the hides. The fire snaps occasionally, but not loudly. No shouting, no urgency, just the rhythm of hands moving and tools tapping. You find yourself slipping into a kind of waking dream, eyes heavy, thoughts soft. You ever notice how rain makes your brain slow down in the nicest way? Like everything's been wrapped in a soft wool blanket. Let me know in the comments, do you like rainy days? Or are you more of a sun person? A few children are playing nearby. Their games change by the weather. Instead of chasing each other through the grass, they're floating bits of bark and twigs in the puddles, watching them swirl and drift like tiny boats. You walk over and join them, and before long, you're building a whole floating village. A bark hut, a stick fire pit, a little mud dog named What Else Splash. It floats away quickly, but someone retrieves it with a long reed and a giggle. Even in the rain, life continues. You return to the hearth in time for a midday meal, simple root stew, warm and fragrant. You eat slowly, savoring the way it chases the chill from your bones. And when you're done, you don't go far. You stay close to the fire, like everyone else, talking, weaving, stirring, listening, because when it rains, the world gets quieter. And in that quiet, you hear the things you usually miss, like the sound of someone's breath as they doze beside you, like the way the fire clicks when a log shifts, like the distant roll of thunder, gentle and sleepy. You curl up on your side, ash pressed against your back, and close your eyes. You don't dream right away. You just rest, in the hush, in the warmth. And you think even in the wettest, grayest days, the fire still burns. And so do we. Night falls slowly after the rain. The village breathes in a damp, earthy rhythm, every surface glistening from the day's downpour. Your shelter smells like wet thatch and fresh clay, and the hearth has been built back up into a cheerful blaze, crackling louder than usual, as if shaking off the chill. You're lying close to the fire, watching the flames shift and flicker in the reflection of a puddle outside. Ash is curled at your feet, damp but determined to stay warm, tail twitching now and then, like it's chasing dreams. Around you, a hush has settled comfortable, like a soft blanket made of silence and low voices. Then, a sound. Light, airy, almost musical. It's a flute, not like the carved bone whistles the children play. This is deeper, smoother, more soulful. The kind of sound that pulls your thoughts like threads and lays them across the stars. You sit up slowly. It's coming from the far side of the hearth, where a small group is gathered in a semicircle. And in the middle of that circle, sitting on a low stone and lit only by firelight, is a child holding something beautiful. A flute carved from bone, long, polished, with tiny holes along its side, and a mouthpiece shaped like a bird's beak. You've seen it before, kept hidden in a bundle of furs like something sacred. You didn't know it worked, but it does. Oh, it does. The child raises it again, blows softly, and out comes a tone so pure, so unexpected, that the entire hearth quiets in unspoken reverence. It rises, dips, circles itself like a spiral in the air, and lands softly on your chest. Everyone's still, listening, feeling. The child plays again slightly faster, more playful, like the melody wants to dance around your ankles and tug you into its rhythm. Someone claps once, quietly. Another hums along, unsure but willing. You smile. It's strange how music finds you. Historians still wonder when humans began to make music intentionally, not just noise, not rhythm for work or hunting, but sound for the sake of beauty. Some say it's tied to language. Others think it's older, instinctual, as natural as heartbeat and breath. And here's something fascinating in one cave. Archaeologists discovered a 40,000-year-old flute made from a vulture's wing bone. It had 5 holes, carefully placed. They tested it. It plays a recognizable scale, 40,000 years. You glance at the child across the fire and think maybe they're not just playing a song. Maybe they're tapping into something ancient, something older than memory. The music continues, slower now, almost sleepy. You close your eyes and let the melody guide your breath. In, out, like the fire, like the rain. When the last note fades, there's no applause, just silence, and a soft exhale, as if the whole village had been holding its breath. Someone whispers, "Play another." The child shakes their head. Not tonight. The flute is wrapped again, tucked away gently, like a gift too precious to use up all at once. You stretch and lie back, your eyes tracing the lines of smoke rising into the starlit sky. The stars are brighter tonight, as if the rain scrubbed the sky clean. You see shapes again, a bear, a fish, a spiral. "Did you hear the flute say anything?" Someone murmurs beside you. You think about it. Maybe it didn't say words, but it said something. Something soft, something real. Maybe it said, "You're not alone." Maybe it said, "This is home." You turn to Ash, who opens one eye, blinks slowly, then sighs, and you can't help but smile. If you had an ancient instrument to play, what would it be? A flute made from driftwood, a drum carved with moon symbols, or maybe a harp strung with wild grass. Drop your dream instrument in the comments. I'm collecting ideas for our prehistoric band. The fire dies down a bit, but no one moves to feed it. The coals are enough. The music still hangs in the air like a soft mist, impossible to touch but hard to forget. You pull your blanket tighter, roll onto your side, and let the last notes echo somewhere in your chest, like they've found a place to rest. And as you drift off, the flute's gentle voice lingers in your memory. Not a song, a feeling. The morning sun creeps over the horizon, lighting the tops of the trees in soft gold. The dew still clings to the grass and rooftops, but the warmth is coming slow and steady. You sit cross-legged outside the shelter, sipping a bowl of warm broth, your fingers cradling it like it's made of light itself. Today is a different kind of day. It's a building day. Not huts, not fences, not hearths, something bigger. The elders have decided to raise a wall of stones, a marker, a boundary, a gathering place. It's not for defense. No one talks about danger. It's more like a line in the land, a message to the earth that says, "We live here now," that this place has meaning. You're not sure exactly what the wall will become. Maybe a place to leave offerings. Maybe where people will gather for certain stories or seasons. Or maybe it's just something that feels right, heavy stones arranged with care, meant to last longer than anything else here. So, after breakfast, you and a dozen others walk to the edge of the village. There's a clearing half forest, half open field where the first stones have been piled. They aren't cut or carved, but they've been chosen. Some are smooth, others jagged, all of them heavy in the way only real things are. You each pick one. Your stone is gray, flat on one side, and surprisingly warm to the touch. You press your palm against it and wonder how long it sat in the sun before someone brought it here. Or maybe it's always been waiting for this moment. The ground has already been cleared. The stones will be placed in a broad arc, like arms halfway to an embrace. Not quite a circle, not a wall that closes, a wall that welcomes. You help roll your stone across the grass, grunting, slipping a few times, until it lands with a soft, satisfying thud in place. Others follow. The line slowly forms. There's no rush. Everyone moves with quiet purpose. When someone needs help, another hand appears without asking. When a stone won't fit, someone finds another. It feels intentional, like you're not just building a wall, you're building memory into the land. And here's the beautiful part. No one speaks too much. The sound of effort, of stone against earth, of breath and movement, it's its own language. Historians still debate what early stone structures were for. Were they spiritual, astronomical, territorial? There are theories, of course, but there's also mystery. Some things were meant to be felt, not explained. And here's a curious detail. One ancient stone wall, found buried under sediment for thousands of years, was later revealed to align perfectly with the sunrise on the first day of spring. Was it planned, a happy accident, or just instinct? You think about that as the wall takes shape. Some of the stones have marks on them, scratches that could be symbols, or maybe just wear. One stone looks like it has a face. Another has a perfect hole through the middle. Someone places that one carefully near the center, so the sun will shine through it at the right hour. You wonder what if someone finds this wall in 10,000 years? What will they think it meant? You grab a smaller stone and begin carving a spiral into the side of yours. Slowly, carefully. The edge of another stone is sharp enough to etch with, and the groove feels permanent the moment you finish it. A few others notice and add their own lines, dots, a star, a tiny footprint. Someone even draws a fish with a smile because why not? And suddenly the wall isn't just structure, it's story. You step back and look at it now, less than halfway done, but already alive. It curves across the land like a thought, a memory made visible. Ash trots over, drops a pine cone beside one of the stones, and sits like it's offering tribute or just trying to be included. Either way, the gesture feels right. If you could carve one thing into a stone wall, something someone far in the future might see, what would it be? A message, a picture, something funny, something wise, or something that doesn't make sense to anyone but you. I'd love to hear your answer. The sun climbs higher. The air warms. You wipe sweat from your brow and take a step back. The wall is growing. So is your sense of place. You came from people who moved, who followed the wind and the herds. But now, something has changed. You are shaping the land, leaving marks, telling time without clocks and meaning without words. And tonight, when the fire crackles and the stories start again, someone will talk about the day the wall began. They'll mention you. The air is still, heavy with the scent of herbs and smoke. The sky is a deep, endless blue overhead. But down here, at the heart of the village, the world is full of color. You're sitting beside your grandmother, threading a bead onto a thin strip of leather. It's small, round, and made of bone worn smooth, a little chipped, but beautiful. Around you, others are doing the same. Some use feathers, others carve symbols into wood. A few even press soft clay into tiny shapes and bake them near the hearth until they harden. Today is about adornment. Not vanity, not fashion, but meaning. This is the day when people decorate themselves not for others, but for themselves. To say, this is who I am. This is where I belong. You hold up your beadwork and squint. It's a mix of things you found and made a red stone from the stream. A tiny shell with a hole worn by time. A carved knot your friend made for you last season. When you wear it, it feels like carrying a story around your neck. Your grandmother ties a spiral pendant into her hair, her hands steady, her face calm. Spirals remind us we're always returning, she says, not looking up. You're not sure what that means yet, but you nod anyway. Elsewhere around the hearth, others are doing their own quiet rituals. One man is wrapping his arms in dyed cloth, each strip marked with lines that represent his children. A young woman paints dots across her cheekbones, one for each season she's lived through since her naming. A child carefully presses flowers into clay, humming softly as they dry. No one rushes. This is a day for remembering. Anthropologists sometimes call this identity expression. They write about it in long papers with big words. But here, it's simpler. It's a way to say, I know who I am, and I want the world to see it. You dip your fingers into a paste made from crushed berries and charcoal. It smells tangy, sharp, almost sweet. You swipe it gently along your collarbone, creating a wavy line. You don't know exactly what it means, but it feels right. Did you know that prehistoric humans were making personal jewelry over 40,000 years ago? Tiny beads from shells, bones, stones, even teeth strung together with sinew or braided grass. Some necklaces were found buried with their owners, carefully placed around their necks, worn even into death. There's something eternal about that. And here's something curious in one ancient burial. A person was found with a single bead placed inside their mouth. No one knows why. A symbol of silence, of speech, of carrying beauty even into the unknown. You glance around. Everyone here is shining in their own way. Not glittering, not polished, but glowing. The way people do when they've taken time to honor their own story. You feel it too. Ash pads over and drops a clump of feathers in your lap, probably stolen from someone's basket. You laugh and tie one into your necklace anyway. It flutters lightly every time you move. You sit quietly for a moment and just watch. The village hums with calm. The fire flickers in soft golds and oranges. Smoke curls lazily through the air, brushing against beads and threads and markings that didn't exist yesterday. Tomorrow, many of these decorations will be taken off, hung up, repurposed. But today they speak. What would your ancient self wear to express who you are? A cord with a favorite stone, a bracelet made of shell and twine, maybe a cloak painted with your dreams. Tell me in the comments. I'd love to see what your prehistoric style would look like. As evening approaches, the sun hits everyone just right. The beads catch the light, the feathers move in rhythm with the breeze, and the painted lines seem to glow with a soft fire of their own. And then, as if on cue, the drumming begins. Low, steady, not fast, not showy, just a pulse. You find yourself swaying, not dancing, just moving gently, the way grass does in the wind, a kind of quiet celebration of self. You turn and see your grandmother still at the fire, wrapping another strip of leather with beads. She glances up, nods, then holds out a small pendant carved into the shape of a leaf. For your collection, she says. You take it, add it to your necklace, and suddenly, you feel older, not in years, in understanding, adornment. You realize isn't about decoration. It's about remembering who you are, where you've been, what you've learned. The fire pops once, sending a single spark upward into the blue and orange sky. And you think we don't just leave marks on the world? We wear them too. The hearth is cold, not gone, not abandoned, but for the first time in what feels like forever. The fire hasn't been lit. A thick hush blankets the village. No smoke rises, no pots simmer, no glowing embers crackle in the center of the gathering circle. You walk toward the hearth slowly, unsure what to feel. Around you, others move carefully, too quiet, respectful, even a little uneasy. It's not fear, more like emptiness. Last night, the fire burned low. Someone forgot to feed it before bed, assuming someone else would. And then the wind came soft but steady, and by morning, the flames were gone, the coals had cooled, the heart of the village had gone silent. You sit beside the dark hearth, watching the gray ashes shift in the breeze. Without fire, everything feels still. No cooking, no gathering, no stories, just smoke-stained stone and a chill that wraps around your arms, even though the sun is rising. Ash noses around the fire pit, tail drooping slightly, confused. It's not used to this either. Someone sighs. Another starts gathering dry twigs. Soon, a small group begins preparing kindling and striking flints. But nothing catches. The air is too damp. The stones don't spark like they should. Someone mutters about bad luck. Another says it's the gods reminding people to be more careful. You stay quiet. You're remembering something your grandmother once said. You never miss the fire until it's gone. And then, you remember why we guard it. Some historians believe early humans treated fire like a sacred being, something alive, with needs and moods, not just energy, but presence. A friend, a guardian, a teacher. When fire left, people noticed. And here's a strange historical detail in some early cultures. Each village had one person, sometimes an elder, sometimes a child, whose only job was to keep the fire alive, day and night, rain or wind. If it went out, it was considered a sign, a warning. You wonder if today is a sign, or just a very quiet morning. Eventually, someone stands and announces they will go to the next settlement to ask for fire. A long walk, a humble request. It takes effort to ask for something you were supposed to care for. In the meantime, you help gather dry grasses, rub stones together until your fingers ache, try blowing gently into a nest of twigs until your breath runs out. Nothing, no flame, just smoke and silence. You never realized how much noise the fire made until it stopped making it. All those little pops and crackles, the warm soundtrack of everyday life gone. Without it, people keep their distance. Conversations are brief, meals are cold. Even ash seems more restless, pacing in circles and whining softly whenever the wind picks up. You try to stay busy. You mend a basket, rewrap a bundle of herbs, fix a broken strap. But it's not the same. Everything feels like it's waiting, like the whole village is holding its breath. You sit beside the hearth again, staring into the ashes. You try to picture what it used to look like, the flames dancing, the shadows shifting across faces, the warmth that reached your toes and filled your chest. And you think, this is why we gather, not just for heat, not for food, for connection. You reach into the ashes and pull out a stone, once part of the fire ring, now cool and dusty. You hold it in your hand, rub your thumb along its edge. It feels heavier than before, like it remembers the fire better than you do. Here's a question for you. What's something you don't realize the value of until it's gone? A favorite sound, a place, a person. Let me know in the comments. I bet there's something we all miss quietly. Evening comes and still no fire. People eat silently. Some curl up early. A few try singing, but their voices sound thinner without the flames. The stars above are bright, but the ground feels darker than usual. And yet, you sit by the cold hearth again, and someone joins you, then another. You pass around a small bowl of dried fruit, no fire, but still warmth in a different form. Ash lies beside you, warm and solid, and in the silence, you hear something unexpected. Breath, laughter, a soft story told in a whisper. Because even without the fire, the hearth remains. Tomorrow, someone will bring the ember back. The flames will rise again. The smoke will twist skyward. Life will return to its usual rhythm. But tonight, in the quiet, you've remembered something important. The fire is precious. But the gathering, that's what really burns. The ember arrives at dawn, carried carefully in a hollowed-out piece of horn, cushioned with dried moss, and guarded like it's the last light on earth. You watch the traveler, mud-spattered, exhausted, step into the village circle, arms outstretched as if offering a newborn star. Everyone rushes forward, but no one speaks. They just stare. Inside the horn, a tiny glow pulses. Not a flame, not yet, just the soft, steady red of something almost gone, but not quite. The kindling has already been prepared, the fire ring cleared, rebuilt, and patiently waiting. You crouch beside it with shaking hands. This is your chance, not just to restart the fire, to revive it. You lean close and tip the horn. The ember drops into the nest of bark and dry grass. It lands gently, barely a breath. For a second, it seems to dim. But then, you blow, gently, rhythmically, like breathing life into something sleeping. A wisp of smoke, a flicker, a whisper of flame. And then, it catches. The kindling bursts into golden orange, licking the air like it's tasting it. You hear someone gasp. The fire grows hungry, joyous, wild, and in seconds, it's real again, alive. The hearth has been reborn. You step back, heart pounding, soot smudged and smiling. Everyone around you begins to move again, smiling, laughing, clapping shoulders, as if the village itself has exhaled. Ash barks once, and then collapses happily beside the flames like it had been personally stressed out about the situation. The first pot is placed over the fire. You don't even ask what's in it. It smells like everything you missed: herbs, fat, roots, warmth, and time. People gather naturally, no invitation needed. One by one, they settle around the hearth, their hands reaching toward the heat, eyes half closed with contentment. It's not just comfort, it's something older, something earned. And for the first time in 2 days, someone starts to sing. Quietly, at first, a low hum, then a melody. You recognize it as a fire song, passed down through generations. It's not about fire itself, it's about returning, about what it means to come back. Historians often describe the fire as humanity's first tool, our earliest technology. But here, sitting with your feet near the glow, you know it's more than that. It's ritual, it's memory, it's belonging. There's a curious detail from one archaeological site, a hearth where layers of ash had been carefully swept and stacked, like pages in a book. The people there didn't just burn wood, they remembered it. They treated fire not as a moment, but as a story. You watch the flames dance, their shadows flickering on faces old and young. The fire seems to laugh as it crackles, like it's been waiting for this reunion just as much as you have. And then someone says it quietly, but with that teasing tone. So, who let it go out? The circle erupts into laughter. You grin, even though everyone knows it wasn't really anyone's fault. But the joke makes it feel lighter. Like the fire doesn't just warm your hands, it warms your humor too. Ash rolls onto its back and shows its belly, clearly done worrying. Someone tosses it a chunk of roasted root. It eats it with great drama, as if it personally carried the ember across the hills. You stretch your arms and lean back, the warmth wrapping around you like an old friend's hug. The fire roars now not wild, but steady, like it remembers its place and is happy to be back. Let me ask you something. If you had to carry an ember through the cold to save your people, what would you wrap it in? What would keep it warm? Moss cloth. A glove passed down from someone you loved. Drop your survival strategy in the comments. I'm making a list of creative ancient fire-saving methods. You know, just in case. As the sun rises higher, the day unfolds with new energy. Tools are mended, baskets repaired, meals prepared with extra care. The laughter around the fire doesn't stop, neither does the gratitude. You realize something: the fire was never really gone. Not fully, because the idea of it, its shape, its rhythm stayed with you. In the cold, in the waiting, in the hope. And now that it's back, it feels even more powerful, because you remember what it was like without it. You close your eyes and listen, wood popping, water boiling, voices murmuring like wind in the trees. The fire doesn't speak, but it says everything. The sun is just beginning to lean west when someone arrives at the edge of the village with a shell in their hands and salt on their skin. They're from another settlement distant, coastal, wind-carved, and they've come not with fire, not with warnings, but with something simple, a trade. You and a few others gather around the visitor as they kneel near the hearth, unwrap a woven pouch, and reveal what's inside: chunks of salt, coarse and white like crushed bone, but gleaming in the sunlight. Alongside it, smooth shells, strands of dried seaweed, and something utterly strange: a pebble, pale green and glass-like. Everyone leans closer. The trade is quiet. A few questions, some nods. A hand reaches forward with bundles of herbs, another with a jar of thick honey, sealed with wax. The items are offered, not demanded. Each exchange is slow, gentle, full of eye contact and intention. You've seen trade before, but today it feels ceremonial. not about value, about connection. Because each object carries a place: salt from the sea, honey from the hills, stone from the river. When you trade, you're not just giving things, you're sharing where you've been. The visitor smiles, brushes hair from their face, and begins to speak not just about the items, but the journey, the sea they crossed, the birds they followed, the long walk through grassland that swayed taller than a person. Everyone listens, eyes wide, not because it's dramatic, but because it's new. And this is what trade has always been: story sharing, a way to expand the world without ever leaving the fire. Did you know early trade networks existed long before roads or writing obsidian from Turkey found its way to Europe? Shells from the Mediterranean turned up in alpine caves. People talked with goods, with gifts, with curiosity. And here's a strange fact in one early grave. Archaeologists found a necklace made of beads from 7 different regions. That person never traveled, but the world had come to them. You turn the glassy green pebble over in your palm. It catches the light like water. No one's quite sure what it's for. It doesn't cut, doesn't grind, doesn't glow in the dark you checked. But it's beautiful, and that's enough. Someone suggests offering it a spot in the hearth circle. Not to burn, but to keep safe. A symbol of something larger than the village. A reminder that there are others out there, living their lives, baking their bread, feeding their fires. You help dig a small hollow in the earth near the hearth's edge. The pebble is placed inside, then covered gently with a ring of shells. Someone places a sprig of dried mint on top. It's not about usefulness, it's about belonging. Ash sniffs the offering, sneezes dramatically, and wanders off with a huff. You smile. Later, you and the visitor sit together beside the fire, eating a shared meal: bread, stew, seaweed that tastes like the ocean if it had a lemony secret. You trade stories, gestures, laughter. Their words are different, but not confusing. You understand each other the way people always have, through tone, through hands, through wanting to connect. You ask about their village. They describe boats, tides, a moon so bright it turns water to silver. You tell them about your hearth, the painted wall, the day the fire went out. They nod, wide-eyed, and say, "Ours did too." Once, and just like that, you're not strangers. You're samers. Before bed, you're given one small gift: a pinch of salt in a dried leaf pouch. You tuck it into your belt carefully, as if it's gold, because honestly it is. What would you trade if you lived in a time like this? A carved bead, a song, a small pouch of your favorite scent? Drop your ideas in the comments. I'd love to know what you would offer to connect with another soul across the land. As night falls, the visitor is offered a mat by the fire. They accept. No grand ceremony, just a nod. The flames crackle. The stars return. You hear someone quietly humming the same tune you heard days ago, the flute melody, remembered and reshaped. You lie back, the salt pouch still tucked against your hip, and listen to the night. And for the first time, you truly understand. The world is big, but the fire makes it small enough to hold in your hands. The moon is full tonight, so full it feels like a second sun, gentler, quieter, but no less present. Its light spills over the village, painting everything in silver. Shadows are softer, longer. Even the firelight looks humble by its glow. You sit near the hearth, back warmed by the flame, front lit by moonlight. The air is still. Even Ash, usually snoring by now, lies with head up, ears perked. It's the kind of night that makes you feel like the world is holding its breath. Then the singing begins, not loud, not fast. One voice at first, low and careful, singing in a language older than the village itself. You don't understand all the words. You don't need to. The melody moves like smoke, weaving through the night air, calling others in. You look up and see 2 people approaching the fire, hands joined. One carries a small bundle wrapped in fur, tied with a braid of grass. The other has a painted line across their forehead, drawn in white clay that glows faintly under the moon. A soft murmur passes through the crowd. Tonight is a marriage. Not the first, not the last, but always special. No one rushes. A space is cleared by the hearth. The couple sits, facing one another, their hands still joined. An elder steps forward, not to speak, but to sprinkle petals dried, sweet-scented around their feet. And then the gifts begin. Not lavish things, not gold, not jewels, just small tokens. A carved spoon, a smooth river stone, a feather tied to a strand of hair. Each one placed gently into a shared bowl between the two, each one meaning something. Then it's your turn. You rise slowly, feeling your heartbeat in your fingertips. You've prepared a bundle of dried mint and wood ash, tied with a string from your own cloak. It's simple, yes, but the smell of it always reminds you of safety, of fire, of home. You place it in the bowl and nod. The couple smiles. You return to your seat, heart full. There are no vows tonight, no grand speeches, just quiet gestures, shared food, the passing of a single cup between hands. The fire dances, crackles, glows. Did you know early marriage ceremonies were often this simple? Not about ownership or contracts, but connection. A public recognition of partnership, a declaration of support, witnessed by the community, sealed not with papers, but with food, stories, and shared space. And here's a lovely, lesser-known fact in one ancient site. Two people were found buried side by side, facing one another. Their hands were touching. Between them, a small bowl of painted seeds, a symbol, perhaps, of what they grew together. As the moon rises higher, the music changes. Someone begins a slow rhythm on a drum. Another picks up a bone flute. A few people begin to sway, then to step in time. The dance begins not showy, not formal, just movement, energy, joy. You join without thinking. You feel the earth under your feet, cool and firm. You let the music guide you, not like instructions, but like a current. You laugh as someone spins unexpectedly. You watch Ash try to join, tail wagging and paws clumsy. The couple dances too, just a few steps, but with eyes locked and hands still joined. It's not about performance, it's about being seen. And in that moment, everyone is both witness and participant. No spectators, just a circle of humans under a shared moon. What would your version of an ancient wedding look like? A shared necklace, a painted tree, a song only two people know. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear how you would celebrate love without words. The night moves on. The fire settles into glowing embers. The dancers slow. The guests begin to drift, some to sleep, some to sit in silence. The couple stays by the fire a little longer, shoulders touching, the bowl of gifts resting between them. No words spoken, but everything said. You wrap yourself in your blanket and lie down, still feeling the beat of the drum in your legs. The moon watches from above, full and quiet. And you think, love doesn't need language, just presence, just rhythm, just light from both fire and sky. The morning arrives gently, golden and soft, like the warmth left on your cheek after someone brushes your hair back. Birds call from the trees, chirps and whistles layered like a song without a beginning or end. You wake slowly, arms tucked under your head, blanket curled around you. Ash is already up, tail wagging in slow loops as it gnaws thoughtfully on a stick it probably stole from someone's woodpile. Today is a work day, but not the usual kind. No wall building, no fire gathering, no clay mending. Today is about tools. You head toward the gathering circle where the elders have laid out stones, bones, and bits of flint in neat little piles. It's tool sharpening day, a regular event, but somehow always exciting. You never know what might get invented. You pick up a worn flint blade, your own, smoothed at the edges from months of use. You've used it to cut roots, scrape bark, even slice roasted fish. It's still functional, but dulled, like a story told too many times without pause. Nearby, Someone is sharpening their own blade with rhythmic strokes, stone on stone. The sound is satisfying. Scrape, scrape, pause, scrape, scrape, turn. You sit beside them and begin. As you work, others arrive, some with tools, others with nothing but ideas. One person's trying to carve a spoon with a curved bone tip. Another has fashioned a tiny hook from a thorn. A child is experimenting with a slingshot made from 2 bits of sinew and stubborn optimism. Someone jokes, if it doesn't break the first time, it's not really finished. Everyone laughs, mostly because it's true. There's something special about these days. The air hums not with music, but with invention. You pause and study the edge of your flint. It's beginning to gleam again. A few more strokes and it'll be as sharp as the day it was shaped. Did you know that some early human tools were so finely crafted they've been mistaken for modern ones? There's one from over 20,000 years ago, a blade so symmetrical, so perfect that scientists argue whether it was meant to be used or just admired. And here's a strange one, in one dig. Archaeologists found a beautifully carved handle with no blade, just the grip, decorated, balanced, polished, but missing its working part. Was it a toy, a symbol, or just art? You look around the circle and realize not every tool here is for survival. Some are for expression. Someone's carved tiny notches into a fishhook, just for decoration. Another has painted their knife handle with berry juice in a zigzag pattern. And then there's your project. You pull out a flat stone you've been saving, one with a curve perfect for a palm, and a hollow that could hold liquid. You're not quite sure what to do with it yet. Maybe a paint dish, a portable fire bowl, a gift. You run your fingers across its surface and feel something spark. Invention always starts with curiosity. You spend the rest of the morning shaping, testing, sanding with wet sand and its bits of rough bark. Others do the same. By midday, a pile of shavings and flakes has gathered at everyone's feet, like ancient confetti. Ash wanders through and sneezes, offended by the dust. You grin and scratch behind its ears. Progress smells weird, huh? Someone nearby holds up a new creation, a needle so thin it looks like a toothpick, with a hole barely visible. Cheers erupt. That's going to make sewing fur a whole lot easier this winter. And now, a question for you. If you could invent a prehistoric tool, what would it do? Catch fish easier, signal across distances, make music from wind. Drop your wildest ideas in the comments. I'm building a time-traveling invention list, and yours might be the next ancient game changer. By late afternoon, everyone begins to pack up. The best tools are tucked into pouches or belts. The rest are left on a cloth mat, free for others to take or tinker with later. You carry your newly sharpened blade in your stone bowl back toward the hearth. On the way, you stop by the stream and test the edge slicing through a reed with one smooth motion. It feels good, like slicing away the dull parts of yesterday. At the hearth, you place the bowl down, fill it with a few smooth stones, and sit. The fire crackles, the village hums. Your hands are dirty, your muscles tired, and your heart oddly full. Because today you didn't just fix something. You made something, and maybe that's what tools are really for. Not just survival, but transformation. To turn one thing into another. To turn effort into art. To turn hands into history. The wind is sharper today. It whips through the trees at the edge of the village, rattling leaves like bones, and lifting the smoke from the hearth into high, dancing spirals. You wrap your cloak tighter around your shoulders and glance toward the fire, still strong, but bending eastward with every gust. There's a tension in the air, not fear, not quite, more like anticipation, a flicker of something that makes people stand closer together, speak more quietly, glance more often at the sky. You sit beside the fire, watching it fight the wind. The flames stretch long, lean, like they're trying to whisper something you haven't learned to understand yet. Today's lesson is about edges. Edges of safety, edges of trust, edges of tools. Across the circle, an elder kneels with a chunk of stone and a narrow sliver of flint. Their hands are slow, practiced. They're making a blade not for cutting herbs or sharpening sticks, but for protection. That's not something you see every day. Most tools in the village are gentle, cooperative. This one has edges, the kind that slice without asking. Someone beside you whispers, "Why now?" The elder doesn't look up. They say, calmly, because the world isn't always soft. It's not about war, not here. No one speaks of enemies, and no one wears armor. But there are animals, accidents, the occasional stranger who arrives not with salt or beads, but with questions they don't want to answer. And so the edge is shaped. But here's the thing. Even a weapon is made with care. The flint is balanced, the handle wrapped in soft leather for grip. It's not just sharp, it's beautiful. Historians still debate how early communities dealt with conflict. Some say they avoided it, choosing flight over fight. Others point to bones with healed fractures, suggesting tension that didn't always end in violence. But most agree the line between danger and cooperation was thin. You think about that line as the elder passes the finished blade around the circle. It gleams in the firelight, not like a threat, but like a promise that people here will stand for one another if they must. You turn the blade in your hand, it's heavier than it looks. It hums with the memory of the stone it came from. Then you pass it along. Later, a group gathers to practice, not fighting trust. You pair off, each person holding a stick, learning to block, to move, to not hurt. It's a kind of dance, careful, controlled. Your partner is older, their hands are quick, but gentle. You trade blows not to win, but to learn. You both laugh when you mess up. You both nod when you get it right. There's power in knowing you could defend something, and peace in knowing you don't have to yet. Did you know that some early human communities buried their blades with offerings, not as trophies, but as symbols? The blade wasn't just for cutting, it was meaning. One burial had a flint dagger tucked inside a woven pouch, beside a carved bead and a dried flower. Maybe it was love, maybe it was memory, maybe it was both. Here's a thought: if you had to make something to protect not just your home, but your values, what would it look like? A blade? A symbol? A song? Tell me in the comments. I want to know what you'd craft to guard what matters most. Back at the hearth, the fire is still holding its own. You feed it a thick piece of wood and watch the flames rebound, rising strong and steady. Someone begins to hum again, same tune you've heard at dusk all week. This time, you join in. The song blends with the wind, bending and turning, but never breaking. Ash lies beside you, ears twitching with every gust. The dog's eyes are open, alert, watching, listening. The village feels quieter tonight, but not nervous. Prepared. You think maybe protection isn't about power. Maybe it's about readiness. The ability to defend the quiet, to hold the circle, to make sure the fire keeps burning, even when the wind gets bold. You lie back, your hands behind your head, the last light of the sun kissing the tops of the trees. The wind howls once, the fire answers with a snap, and the village sleeps, safe, together. The sky is restless. Clouds roll across it like slow waves, gray, heavy, layered with streaks of white and steel. You can smell the change in the air before anything happens. It's not just rain, it's something older, a turning, a shifting. Autumn has arrived. You pull your cloak tighter and walk the outer path of the village, boots crunching over dry leaves. Ash follows close, tail brushing the earth, nose twitching every few steps, like it's reading some invisible script written by the wind. Today is not for planting or building. Today is for storing. Everywhere you look, people are tucking things away. Bundles of herbs tied with string hang from the rafters. Clay pots filled with nuts and berries are sealed with wax and ash. Nets of dried fish are stacked in tight rows, their scales dull, but their scent still clinging to memory. You join a small group near the edge of the village, where pits have been dug and lined with grass. You help carry baskets 1, 2, 3 at a time, each full of something gathered with intention. Roots, tubers, dried slices of apple. As you lower them into the pit, the smell rises earthy, sweet, a little sour. It smells like effort, like summer held in your hands. Then comes the careful layering: dirt, grass, bark, more grass. Everything designed to protect the food from frost, moisture, and time. Someone jokes, "If the squirrels steal it this year, I'm learning to climb trees." Everyone laughs, but not without a little worry. Winter is coming, after all. This is how humans have survived for thousands of years, not with strength or speed, but with preparation. Historians have found ancient storage pits lined with clay and straw, some dated back over 9,000 years. Inside, seeds still intact, dried fruits, even traces of honey. People didn't just survive, they planned, they preserved. And in one strange sight, dozens of cracked pots buried together, filled not with food, but with petals. Flowers dried and saved, like a garden kept secret through snow. No one's sure why. Maybe beauty was stored, too. You glance toward the forest. The trees have begun to change. One maple stands out, leaves like flames, gold and red and orange so bright it makes the air look faded. Ash bounds toward it, barking once before circling back with a stick like it solved autumn itself. Later in the day, you help seal the last pit, patting the earth down with the flat of your palm. Someone marks it with a carved stick, just a spiral, drawn deep, a reminder, a message. Come back when it's cold. There's warmth hidden here. Back near the hearth, the evening feels heavier. The air is cool, the light is softer. The fire burns with a kind of hunger, like it knows. You sip a bowl of stew, the vegetables more precious now. Every bite a little sweeter for knowing it won't always be this easy. Someone begins telling a story, one you've heard before, but never the same way. It's about a woman who buried a root so deep it grew into a tree that bore fruit even in winter. The details shift depending on who tells it, but the ending is always the same. She remembered. You think about what you would store if you could keep one piece of summer in a jar. A smell, a sound, a handful of warm wind. Let me know in the comments, what would you seal up to save for a darker day? The fire crackles. The sky deepens into indigo. Somewhere above, stars begin to wink into being, hidden behind the breath of oncoming rain. You lie back on your mat, the earth cool beneath you, the fire warm beside you, and the future pressing gently against your thoughts, not like fear, but like expectation. Tomorrow, the air will be colder. But tonight, everything you need is stored. The path to the mound is quiet. You carry a bundle in your arms wrapped in bark, soft with fur, tied with a single strand of woven grass. It is small, light, heavier in meaning than in weight. Ash walks beside you, slower than usual. Its ears are low, tail curled inward, as if even it understands this walk is different. The village moves gently this morning. No hammering, no digging, no drumming, just footsteps, soft voices, eyes cast low. You pass others who nod but do not speak. Some hold bundles like yours, others carry flowers, stones, carved beads, gifts for the one who's gone. At the mound, the wind picks up. It always does here. The trees seem to step back, the grass bending as if in reverence. The ground has already been opened deep enough, careful enough. The earth here is soft, willing. You kneel at the edge and unwrap the bundle, inside a small collection of memories. A painted bead, a piece of cloth from their favorite cloak, a carving of a bird, wings outstretched, no face, just shape. You place the bundle into the ground gently, like tucking someone into bed for the last time. Around you, others do the same. One by one, items are laid down, not because the person needed them, but because you do. Because giving is part of grieving and remembering. There are no speeches, just a silence so full it almost hums. An elder steps forward. They scatter crushed petals and a pinch of salt. They hum a tune, wordless, soft as breath. Someone else joins. Then another. The harmony builds barely more than vibration, but you feel it in your bones. Did you know many early human graves included flowers, tools, food? Some buried their dead with dogs, others with jewelry. One was found with a flute tucked beneath their arm, as if their last sleep needed its own song. And in one rare case, two people were buried facing one another, their hands overlapping. Between them, a single carved stone in the shape of the moon. No one knows their story, but you feel it. Here's something strange even before writing. People still knew how to say goodbye. The singing fades. Someone places a flat stone over the mound and scratches a simple mark into it. Not a name, just a spiral, a sign of return, a symbol of the cycle. You stay behind after the others begin to drift away. Ash lies beside the mound, ears perked, body still. The wind rustles the grass, and somewhere nearby, a bird calls. You don't know its name, but the sound stays with you. You sit for a while, hands in your lap, eyes closed. There's no hurry. What would you leave behind if words didn't exist? What object would say, "I remember you"? A shell, a note etched in stone, a lock of hair tied with string. I'd love to know. Drop your thoughts in the comments if you feel like sharing something tender tonight. Eventually, you rise. The sun is beginning to tilt west. The fire will be waiting. The village will begin to stir again. Life does not pause, it leans. You look back one last time. The mound is closed now, covered in fresh earth. A few stones arranged in a ring, one shaped like a smile, another marked with red ochre. The wind whistled gently through the trees, and still, somehow, it doesn't feel like an ending. It feels like part of the path. Smoke curls gently from the hearth, rising into the pale morning sky like a slow-moving ribbon. You sit cross-legged, hands wrapped around a warm bowl of something sweet berries, nuts, a touch of honey, and stare into the soft light dancing across the fire's surface. Today feels different. Not louder, not busier, just awake. People are gathering in a way they haven't in a while. No special call, no loud announcement, just feet padding softly through the village paths, voices like water over stones, quiet and close. You stand and stretch, your joints murmuring their own sleepy greetings. Ash yawns dramatically, paws stretching in front before flopping right back down beside the hearth, tail flicking like it's judging your enthusiasm. At the center of the village, someone's already begun laying out mats and bundles. Others follow with bowls, small carvings, bits of cloth, polished bones, strings of beads nothing too large or grand, just gatherings of stories. Today is a celebration, not of a harvest, not of a person, not even of survival, but of place. You sit down beside a pile of river stones and start arranging them. No particular pattern, just a circle. Then someone else joins, adding bits of red clay. Another brings flowers not fresh, but dried, their colors muted but still proud. All around you, people are marking, not for memory, for presence. One child arranges feathers in rows. A grandmother places 4 beads in the shape of a square and whispers something to herself. A young man scratches a spiral into a piece of bark and tucks it into a fold of woven mat. And you pull out a smooth disc of stone you've been carrying for weeks. You've carved a small sun into one side, not perfect, but warm. You place it at the base of the fire. A quiet hush falls over the circle, not forced, not awkward, just natural. The way clouds drift or waves come in, everyone sits, everyone waits. Then someone stands and begins to speak. Not loudly, not formally, just sharing. A story about the first night the fire was lit here. How the sparks rose so high they thought they'd set the stars ablaze. Another stands. They tell of a hunt not for meat, but for meaning. The time they followed a hawk for hours, only to find a new spring bubbling up from the hillside. And then someone tells your story. Not the details, not your name, but the day the fire went out, the ember walk, the breath that brought it back. You feel your face warm, even warmer than the fire. But it's a good warmth. You're part of the place now, and maybe you always were. Here's a wonderful fact. Early humans marked important places, not just with buildings, but with gatherings like this. Seasonal meetings, rituals of nothingness, just to be together. They left behind circles of stones, painted rocks, layered footprints, as if saying, we were here together. In one site, scientists found dozens of overlapping hearths, each built just inches from the last, across hundreds of years, like generations kept returning to the same fire. Isn't that beautiful? You shift and feel something under your mat, another disc of stone, this one carved by someone else. A face, simple lines, peaceful eyes. You don't know who left it, but you leave it where it is. Later, food is passed around. Nothing elaborate, warm broth, bits of bread, berries. You eat in silence, listening to the stories continue. Some are funny. One makes you cry a little. No one judges. The fire crackles in approval. You lie back on your mat, staring up at the sky. The clouds drift by slowly, like they're watching too. Someone begins humming. Then another joins. Then another. You hum too, without even thinking about it. It's not a song you know, but somehow, it's one you've always known. What would your gathering look like? If you brought your favorite people together to celebrate a place, would there be food music, objects left behind? Tell me in the comments, I'd love to imagine it with you. The humming fades. People begin to rise, one by one, drifting back toward their shelters. The fire stays, of course, still burning, always burning. You stay just a little longer, watching the last few stones glint in the firelight. And you think, this place didn't happen by accident. It was built by presence, by laughter, by stories, by silence shared around a single source of light, by you. Night has fallen, but the air feels alive. Not restless, not loud, just full of warmth, memory, and the soft crackling of the fire as it flickers gently against the dark. You sit close, knees tucked to your chest, blanket draped over your shoulders. Ash is curled beside you, chin on your foot, breathing slow and steady. Tonight, no one is speaking. No one needs to. This is a night for stillness, a night to feel everything you've lived without having to say a word. The fire glows like a heartbeat, steady, warm, unwavering. You reach out and feel the heat on your fingertips, not close enough to burn, just enough to remember that it's real. All around you, others are sitting too, quiet, eyes half closed, listening to nothing and everything. You see faces you know, some old, some new. The trader who brought sea salt, the grandmother with her spiral pendant, the couple who danced under the moonlight, even the child who once chased Ash through the herb bundles, now sitting still, holding a stone in both hands like it's the most precious thing in the world. Tonight, you realize how much has happened since that first fire. How many stories have flickered to life and faded like embers in the wind, and how none of them are gone. They live in the walls, the tools, the painted rocks, the songs people hum when they think no one's listening. They live in you. Historians call this cultural continuity. It's the reason we can still feel connected to people who lived 10,000 years ago. Not because we remember their names, but because we carry their instincts. To gather, to create, to remember. And here's a curious fact. One ancient site showed a single hearth that had been rebuilt dozens of times, in the exact same place, as if the people couldn't bear to let it go, as if the location itself held something sacred. You feel that now, the pull of place, of presence, of shared time. The fire pops gently, a single spark lifting into the night sky, drifting upward like a quiet goodbye. You lean back and close your eyes. Images drift through your mind, painted hands on cave walls, bundles of herbs hanging from rafters, beads strung with stories, laughter rising with the smoke. And through it all, the fire, always the fire. If you were to leave one thing behind for someone in the far future to find, what would it be? A word carved in stone, a collection of feathers, a song on the wind. Share it with me in the comments. Maybe your story will light someone else's hearth. The fire has burned low now, just red coals, still warm, still waiting. You rise slowly and walk around the circle one last time. You see the marks people have made, the gifts they have left, the symbols they have drawn. You smile. It's not about the fire anymore. It's about what it became. A center, a memory, a mirror. You return to your mat, lie down, and pull the blanket close. Ash shifts and presses its head into your side. The last stars slip into place above you. And you realize, as sleep begins to soften your edges, you were never just visiting this story. You were the story. The ember, the breath, the hands that shaped it all. The fire will fade tonight. But you'll carry the warmth forever. Word count 1, 352. Closing 300 words. So, now, with the fire dimming and your eyes heavy, let's take a slow breath together and remember the path we've walked. From the first flicker of flame on ancient stone to the quiet traditions of art, gathering, trade, and rest, you've lived 100 lives tonight. You've sat beside people who never had names, and yet, somehow, you know them. You are them. The story of the first human settlements isn't just history. It's a whisper of who we are, beneath the noise. It's the feeling of hands working together, the smell of earth and ash, the way a song can bind a group into a family. And even though the village may sleep now, the memory stays, because the hearth was never just a fire. It was belonging, it was hope, it was home. So, before you drift off completely, I'd love to hear from you. What part of this journey stayed with you the most? Was it the quiet mornings, the wedding beneath the moon, the day the fire went out? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone, and if you're still awake, well, you're amazing. If you enjoyed this story, please remember to like the video and subscribe for more calm history journeys just like this. It helps the channel more than you know. Also, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. I always love seeing our little tribe of time travelers stretch across the world. Now, close your eyes, let the coals glow in the dark, and let your breath slow. The fire's still burning, even if only inside you. End of script. Sleep well,